Last time, we met the man who chose the streets over skyscrapers, who gave away his fortune and vanished. But now whispers are spreading. Someone's been following him, watching him, and just when he thought he'd escaped his past, it shows up, disguised as a stranger with a single question. Do you remember Panama? Jeff Bezos was just 43 years old when he made the decision that would change his life forever. He walked into the Seattle Citibank branch and emptied out his bank account, transferring every last penny to his wife and kids. Then he walked out without a backward glance. No one knew where he went or why. His wife assumed he was off on another one of his crazy business trips. But soon she got a call from the bank confirming her suspicions. Jeff had closed his account and left town without a trace. And if that wasn't strange enough, the police showed up at their doorstep asking if they'd seen anything suspicious. Apparently, there'd been a string of break-ins at tech companies around town, and Jeff had been involved with some of them. He even had connections to a few individuals who'd been arrested for the crimes. The police were shocked by what they found. Jeff was nowhere to be seen. But in the middle of the empty house was a note addressed to his wife. It read, "I had to go. They were getting close." What did he mean? Was he in danger? Had he gone into hiding to protect himself? Or maybe he was lying about everything. Maybe he hadn't given away all his money after all. Maybe he'd stashed it somewhere safe and planned to start a new life somewhere far away. But none of those theories could explain why the richest homeless man in the world suddenly vanished without a trace. After the shock wore off, Jeff's wife called the police and filed a missing persons report. But deep down she knew it was futile. Her husband was a ghost, and no one would ever find him. Now she's left alone in that mansion with millions of dollars in the bank, but not a single clue as to where he went. She's tried everything she can think of to find him, but he seems to have evaporated into thin air. Jeff's wife is desperate. She loves her husband and wants to know where he is, but she's also scared. Jeff has always been secretive, and now he's gone missing after giving away all his money. She fears the worst. Meanwhile, Jeff is living on the streets. He hasn't showered in days and his clothes are dirty and torn. But he doesn't care. He's free. Free from the chains of wealth and power. Jeff had been a successful businessman, but he always felt trapped by his success. He worked day and night and never had time for the things that really mattered. When he finally achieved his goal of becoming the richest person in the world, he realized it didn't mean anything. He was lonely and isolated. All of his friends and colleagues were people he could use to get more money or power. And even his family seemed to love him only because of his wealth. But when he gave it all away, something amazing happened. People started treating him like a human being. He could walk down the street without being recognized. He could buy food without paying for it. He could talk to anyone, and they wouldn't care who he was. For the first time in his life, Jeff felt truly happy. He'd experienced real friendship and kindness. He'd seen what life was like outside the gilded cage of his wealth. And he never wanted to go back. But Jeff's happiness didn't last long. Soon, people started to recognize him again. At first, it was just a few people who knew him from before, but soon everyone knew who he was. Jeff became a celebrity overnight. Everyone wanted to be his friend. Everyone wanted a piece of the action. And once again, Jeff felt trapped. One day, Jeff was sitting on a park bench feeding the birds when a man approached him. The man introduced himself as John and said he was a reporter for a local newspaper. He explained that he'd heard Jeff's story and wanted to write an article about it. Jeff was suspicious, but eventually agreed to meet with John. John was everything Jeff had expected. He was wealthy, influential, and arrogant. But as they talked, Jeff began to feel a connection with John. He was honest, intelligent, and humble. And most importantly, he didn't seem to care about Jeff's wealth. At the end of the meeting, John asked Jeff if he could write his story. Jeff agreed, and the article was published the following week. Overnight, Jeff's life changed. People from all over the country contacted him, wanting to share their own stories or offer him help. Jeff was overwhelmed, but he knew he couldn't keep running. He had to face his problems head-on. He decided to use his newfound fame to help others. He started a foundation to help the homeless and began speaking out against social injustice. Jeff was happy with his decision. He felt like he was finally making a difference in the world. But soon his past caught up with him again. One evening, Jeff was walking home when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned around and saw a man running toward him. The man was tall and muscular, and he looked like he was in trouble. He reached Jeff and panted, "Please help me. They're after me. I don't know where else to go." Before Jeff could respond, the man collapsed. Jeff rushed to his side and turned him over. It was John. In a panic, Jeff tried to help John up, but he was too weak. Jeff quickly realized that John had been stabbed and was bleeding profusely. Without thinking, Jeff took his jacket off and applied pressure to John's wounds. Then he called for an ambulance. When the paramedics arrived, they rushed John to the hospital. Jeff stayed with him until he was taken away. At the hospital, Jeff learned that John had died from his injuries. The police were called in and they began their investigation. Jeff told them everything he knew, but they seemed unconvinced. They suspected that Jeff had killed John and were watching him closely. Jeff was innocent, but he understood their suspicion. After all, he had given away all his money and was living on the streets. Why would someone kill a multi-billionaire? Only Jeff knows the answer. As the days passed, the police focused on other leads and Jeff's involvement in John's death faded from their minds. But Jeff couldn't escape the guilt he felt for not being able to save John. He had let down his only true friend, and he didn't know how to forgive himself. Then one day, Jeff received a call from an unknown number. He hesitated, but eventually answered the phone. A gruff voice on the other end said, "Do you remember Panama?" Before Jeff could respond, the line went dead. Jeff stared at the phone in disbelief. What did the caller mean? Did he know about John's death? Was he responsible? Jeff didn't know what to do. He was scared, confused, and desperate for answers. As the weeks went by, the calls kept coming. They usually consisted of just one sentence. "Do you remember Panama?" Each time Jeff answered the phone, the caller hung up. But Jeff was determined to find out who was behind the calls. He tried to trace the number, but it was no use. It was a burner phone, and there was no way to track it down. Jeff was at his wit's end. He was tired of being haunted by the mysterious calls, and he didn't know what to do next. Then he had an idea. He decided to visit the place mentioned in the caller's messages, Panama. Jeff had never been to Panama before, but he knew it was a small country located in Central America. He booked a flight and arrived in Panama City, the capital and largest city of Panama. As he stepped off the plane, Jeff felt a sense of excitement mixed with apprehension. What would he find in Panama? Was it related to his past or to John's death? He didn't know, but he was determined to find out. When Jeff landed in Panama, he immediately noticed the stark contrast between the country's natural beauty and the poverty and crime that plagued its cities. He had heard stories of Panama's notorious gangs and violent crime, and he was taking precautions. He hired a private investigator named Miguel to follow him around and make sure he didn't get hurt. Over the next few days, Jeff met with various people, including a former business associate who had connections to both the criminal underworld and high society. Through his associate, Jeff learned that there was a secret organization operating in Panama that was involved in a wide range of illegal activities, from drug trafficking to money laundering. The organization was led by a mysterious figure known only as El Jefe, which means the boss in Spanish. Meanwhile, Jeff's interactions with the people of Panama taught him much about the country and its culture. He was struck by the warmth and hospitality of the Panamanian people, despite the difficult circumstances many of them faced. He visited schools and hospitals that were in desperate need of supplies and made several donations. As Jeff continued his investigation, he uncovered a shocking truth about John. It turned out that John had been working undercover for the government, trying to infiltrate the secret organization and bring it down. He had been close to uncovering the identity of El Jefe when he was killed. Jeff was devastated to learn that his friend had been murdered on such a dangerous mission, but he was determined to honor John's memory by continuing the investigation. With the help of Miguel and his other contacts, Jeff managed to get close to the inner circle of the organization. He attended lavish parties and met with powerful people who seemed untouchable. But all the time, he was gathering evidence that would eventually lead to the downfall of the entire organization. As the plot thickened, Jeff found himself in grave danger. The members of the secret organization were ruthless and would stop at nothing to protect their interests. Jeff's every move was watched, and he had to be constantly on guard. But he was determined to see the investigation through to the end. Finally, the day came when Jeff had enough evidence to expose the secret organization. With the help of the authorities, he brought down the entire organization and many of its members were arrested. In the end, El Jefe was revealed to be a high-ranking government official who had used his power and influence to protect the organization. As the news of the arrests spread, the people of Panama erupted in celebration. They had finally been freed from the grip of the secret organization and its corrupt leaders. In the aftermath of the operation, Jeff was hailed as a hero. He had risked his life to expose the truth and had emerged victorious. He received numerous awards and honors from the government and the people of Panama. But for Jeff, the true reward was knowing that he had made a difference in the world. He had helped to bring down a ruthless organization and had given hope to the people of Panama that they could fight back against injustice and corruption. As Jeff prepared to return home, he reflected on his journey. He had come to Panama seeking answers and had found so much more. He had discovered the strength and resilience of the human spirit, the importance of fighting for justice, and the true meaning of courage. He knew that his life would never be the same again.